Carlos Ramirez, owner of MDS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. So we got a bike shipped up to us from Florida. The bike was at another shop. The client gave specific instructions on how he wanted the build done. They did not follow any of his instructions. He wanted nothing in the tour pack and amplifiers in the fairing, no amplifiers in the saddlebag. So when they showed him the initial video, there was amplifiers installed in the tour pack. He said that's not the way he wanted it. So when they returned the bike to him, the amps were no longer in the tour pack, but they had drilled holes in his brand new tour pack, but now the amps were completely occupying one of the two saddlebags. And on top of all that, he didn't like the way the bike sounded. So he had just got the bike back from the shop that he shipped it to them, so then he shipped the bike up to our shop, and we're doing it the way that he wants. The other shop used really good amplifiers, but their Euphoria expert amplifiers, they're really big. So obviously the amount of power, they're running 4,000 watts. Running Euphoria amplifiers, you're not fitting that kind of power in the fairing. And he didn't want amplifiers in the tour pack, so we're going to be able to reuse all the speakers, but the amplifiers we're not going to be able to use because we need to go in the fairing with the amplifiers. We're going to run a 1601 and a 1200.4 and an HKI Mini DSP, and everything else that he has we're going to reuse. This is a really good looking bike. There's a ton of artwork on the bike. I don't want to show the bike until the bike's finished, so I'll show it in the second part of this video. So in part one, we're just going to talk about the equipment and show the things that were changing around. Then in part two of the video, we'll actually show the bike and play the bike. Another thing we ran into in the fairing, they promised him Euphoria Expert carbons. He has the non-carbons in the fairing, so they're shipping him the correct speakers, and then we're installing those. And then in the saddlebags, I couldn't figure out why this bike wasn't making the right amount of mid bass. We use Euphoria Expert carbon mid basses a lot, and I know how much bass it can produce. This bike just was not producing that kind of bass. After I took it apart, I realized why. They use an American hardbag 8-inch cut-in kit, which is completely fine if you're using a mid-range speaker. I'm going to show you later on in this video why you can't use it with a mid bass. So they promised him a carbon fiber mid bass. They sold him a carbon fiber mid bass, and they ended up installing carbon fiber mid range because the mid bass would not fit in the kit. So this is all stuff I had to make him aware of, and he was not happy. But this is how we handled the situation. We had to fiberglass the bags because the opening for the American hardbag kit is a different shape than the opening that we use for our mid bass rings. But we got the amplifiers installed in the fairing, ran all the wiring to the front, and should be done with this bike in a couple days. So part two of this video should be up in 2 or 3 days. Check out what we have so far. The worst part of this entire thing is they're running 4,000 watts of power on a stock Harley battery. The upgrade starts with the electrical. Once you pick the battery that you're gonna run, that determines how much power you can put on the bike. Stock battery is only good for 400, 500, 600 watts. AGM battery will take you, if you do an upgraded AGM, so the stock battery, you can stretch it to 800 watts. If you're gonna do an upgraded AGM, it'll take you to 2,000 watts. And anything past that, you're gonna need lithium battery. These are just scientific facts, it's not opinion. It takes power to make power. They put all these amplifiers on the bike, and it still had the factory battery. So we had to upgrade it to a Braille G30H lithium. I mean, if you're gonna run that much power on the bike, make sure that you have the capacitance to be able to run it. So the bike had 3,300 watts across 3 amplifiers, 1 in the fairing, 2 in the saddlebags. We're gonna drop down in power to 2,800 watts, but we're gonna get everything in the fairing. Customer wants his saddlebag space back, and he definitely wants all the amps in the fairing. So we're gonna lose a little bit of power, but we're gonna gain functionality in the saddlebags, and I guarantee you we lose no output. So when the customer received the bike back, he didn't realize that the amplifiers had been installed in the saddlebag. So they did a really good job installing these amps. It's a solid mount, but he's not happy of the loss of bag space. He wanted all the amps in the fairing, nothing in the tour pack, nothing in the saddlebags. So the bike sounds good. It lacks bass though, and the amplifiers are stealing much needed airspace that the woofer needs, and the amount of airspace in the bags is different because there's stuff in this bag, but there's no amplifiers in the opposite bag. He wants this amount of bag space in both sides. So we're gonna remove the amplifiers. Okay, so the more I take this bike apart, the more I realized how badly this customer got screwed over. They used the mid-range in the saddlebag facing the rear wheel instead of the proper mid-base. So the reason they use the mid-range is in this kit, there's a great kit. It's designed for mid-range only. So you see how close the speaker is? If you even try to install this speaker on the kit, it hits the kit, won't go on. So they charge the customer for the mid-bass speaker, but they installed the mid-range speaker, which of course doesn't produce bass in the bags. So if you look at the American Hardbag kit, it's a great kit. I love this kit, but not for mid-bass drivers, only for mid-range. So you see that? There's almost no space for the woofer to move out, which is fine on a mid-range speaker because the woofer barely moves. But on a mid-bass speaker, you have a lot more travel, a lot more. So if you notice, as soon as we just put it on, it sits on the surround, completely sitting on the surround. You see that? And the speaker hasn't even started to move yet. So there is no way that we can make this work with this. So we repaired the opening cut into the bag with fiberglass. And now we're gonna be able to use our ring as you can see, our ring's a lot deeper, so it will clear. But this is the proper speaker. Won't fit in this ring. I have to use these rings. And we'll make it right. Leo's got the new carbons in there. We fixed stupid, right, Leo?
That's right.